Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. August is approaching, which means we're well into the outdoor gardening and landscaping season. To get some tips for this time of year, to see some new plants, and to learn about problems to watch for, we're joined by our experts from the University of Vermont. It's always a pleasure to welcome horticulturist Leonard Perry and Ann Hazelrig, who heads the university's plant diagnostic clinic. Good to see you both.
Great to be
Thanks
back.
for coming in. Got to get that horticulture.
That's a hard one. And
I always want to put it an extra little
whatever.
thing
Either
into
way.
it. Anyway, okay. So Leonard, let's start with you. You want to introduce us to some new flowers and particularly some perennials.
Yeah, and this one in particular isn't that new, this cultivar, but bee balms have been around. It was used for a remedy for bee stings, hence the balm. But this is a native plant, and this one in particular I brought, it's a red one. It's if I had to choose one, this is probably my favorite because it's like a plant on steroids. It's huge. It gets maybe 4 feet tall or 5. Has large flowers, and this one you may see it called Monarda. This was found by a physician, Spanish man named Monardes, and taken back to Spain from the U.S. It is a native, and this one in particular was found by a nurseryman down in Georgia along the Blue Ridge Parkway, named after his son Jacob. And so this is a native plant, and with the red you might think hummingbirds. Yes, they love it, and the nectar-rich flowers. They aren't scented, but they do have a lot of nectar. Hummingbird moths, bees, butterflies. Great for pollinators. It does tend to spread, so give it plenty of room. You see this clump here, maybe 4, 5, 6 feet across, but you can contain it. It doesn't, you know, if it starts to spread right
No,
now.
and they're beautiful.
They are, and they
last
last a long time. They're pretty maintenance free, and this one doesn't get the powdery mildew, so Anne wouldn't like that, so she likes the mildew. So.
Okay, and you've also jewel weed, so I just think of this as, you know, it's pretty, it's kind of fun, but it's a weed.
Well, it does seed all around, so you have to, but it's so easy to pull out. It's
Right,
very
true.
sappy stems, which is good because if you have that nettle, the stinging nettle, get some of that sap and rub it on it. And that's a remedy for that just in the yard. But this one does get several feet high. The people that know it, it's got that impatiens type flower. Hummingbirds love this too. So if I get a bunch seed in, I just leave it till the hummingbirds are done early September and go away. Then I take it down, you know, once it's finished flowering.
Which is easy, or just pull it out,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is so easy, right after a rain. It's a cinch. So, okay, Anne, you of course deal with pests and problems, and
Yes.
you have some problems with blueberries that are just,
Blueberries,
they're just coming
yeah.
into
The first-
fruiting now.
Yeah, the first 4 slides are blueberries. We've had a lot of problems with blueberries this year because of our really early wet spring. So the first slide is a picture of a disease, a fungus disease called mummyberry. And it causes when it's in bloom, the fungus spores get into those blossoms and cause a shoot blight like that. And then once your fruit is ripening, if you cut open that fruit when it's green, you see that beautiful star-shaped pattern. That's the actual fungus in the berry. And what happens is that just causes the berry eventually to shrivel and look like a little mummy hanging on it's inedible.
So you cut them open when they're still green to see if you've got this
Yes.
fungus, and then what do you do?
Well, then if you do have this fungus, you should just pick all those berries and destroy them, because if they drop to the ground, that's where that fungus is going to overwinter. So you want to pick and destroy all the berries, clip out those shoots that were blighted, and then the next thing you can do, since that berry overwinters on the ground, it'll produce a little mushroom next spring. And so if home gardeners or commercial growers put a layer of mulch on the plants in the early spring, like a 3-4 inch layer of mulch,
Really thick. Yeah.
thick, you'll smother those mummies and you'll control that part of the disease.
Wow.
So, or lessen it.
Right.
Yeah, so the next slide I have is another blueberry, which is beautiful. I think I
Right.
brought 2 beautiful blueberry diseases.
This is your third slide here.
Yeah, this is a fungus disease called Exobasidium, and it's also caused if you look at the leaf symptoms of it, it causes a bright red spot on the leaf, and it's kind of thickened with a white fungus underneath the leaf. And then as the berries mature, you see a fungal leaf spot, that red leaf spot on the berry, or red spot on the berry, and that makes it unmarketable and unedible. So that's not good. So you have to pick that. And then this disease also gets on azaleas and rhododendrons. So next to that picture with the
Was it like a mushroomy looking
yeah,
thing?
it's a gall. It's this abnormal swelling on azaleas and rhododendrons, and I guess there's a lot of that out there this year too because it was wet. So if a home gardener sees that, you know, it's usually there it is.
And you cut it off?
Yeah,
or
you just cut it off and destroy
throw it away?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Let's turn back to Leonard now. There's some garden harvesting already happening, and there's one crop in particular that is ready to be harvested.
I know we were talking earlier, we all love garlic, and
Yeah, we
it's easy
do.
to grow. If somebody likes garlic, they should be growing some. Fall's the time to plant it, and that relates to now, because now's actually when you harvest it. So when the plants start to die back, that's not necessarily the cue. You got to look at the bulbs that you're digging out of the ground, and you want to see several sheaths of, you know, that protective coating. That's a sign that, okay, this is ready. You dig it, you leave those tops on, you lay it out in, as we have here on these flats, out of direct sun, but well ventilated place, warm place, and let it dry for a couple of weeks, a week or so, but we usually leave it more. Then you cut the tops off, the roots off, and, you know, push some of the dirt off, and some of the varieties will store, I have them until April, you know, or May even.
Right, and you take your biggest ones to replant,
Yeah, you take the biggest
right away.
ones, you save a few of those aside, so in October you can replant those for the following year.
Okay, and the scapes are cut like a couple weeks even
Yeah, the
prior
scapes
to that.
you cut before that.
Before
I know
they
you like
flower,
those,
and I love the scapes. I
you can
just
fry
them up.
Fry them up. Yeah, they're good. We tried that this year, or put them in salads if you really want some zing.
Right, right. Okay, and excellent information about all of that. And there are also some equipment.
Of course,
you know,
I love
this guy
tools. Yeah,
thing,
being a
but you
guy
know,
thing.
tools. So let's
this
take
year
a look
I've
at
got
this
really
stuff.
more into the electric. You know, we have some solar, which helps with the electric, and so battery and corded. So I just brought pictures of a few of those different ones that we have. So here are some shears. Probably for a hedge, you might want a powered one, you know, with a cord, something stronger. But you can use, especially for the, you know, trimming, topiary things, the hand ones in the bottom. Both these are battery powered. I love the top one. It's got an extension pole. That's what I use to get those parsnips early on. Wild parsnip, when I don't want to weed whack it, that can just cut it right off like that. So you know, battery powered lawnmowers have come a long way. I got this year. It'll last maybe an hour. I'm actually a power company's giving a little rebate on these, so that's great too. But it's just, and this is a self-propelled if you want, so you can just walk behind it, all with the battery power. So it does a really good job. A mulching mower, and then tillers. This is a corded one I have, but I actually use it with the tines for aeration on the lawn when it gets compacted instead. But you plug it in, and then you're not using any, you know, putting out those fumes. So good examples of equipment, and there's others that you can get that are all electric or battery powered.
Right, when you were talking about the trimmers, you talked about, you know, that might not have quite as much power. Is that an issue with
well,
electric?
if you're doing a big hedge, it's got thick stems, yeah, some of those battery powers, you know, maybe do a 1/2 inch stem or 3/4 max, but maybe 1/2 inch. So if you have really thicker woody plants, you might want to get a really heavier duty. They have longer blades, and you can plug it into power, and that'll do a good job. Just make sure you don't hit the power cord.
I was going to say, so that's
it's very
plug-in
easy to
power
do
is a
this.
little bit more, has a little bit more oomph than the
more
battery.
but the others, you know, and I like the hand ones because you can get down in a bed when you've got a lot of weeds and just kind of cut them back with that around more desirable perennials to help with initial weeding.
Okay, terrific. And so, Ann, what else do we need to know about those pests out there?
Well, these are a couple of pictures that were sent to me by home gardeners. The first one is on a willow tree, and it's this really strange looking growth at the base of the willow tree, and this is a fungus-like organism. It's really in a different kingdom, a Protista kingdom. It's sort of like a cross between an animal and a plant. But it's a primitive fungus-like organism, and when it's really cool and wet, it will grow on plants. It doesn't hurt
that's
the
a
plant.
growth
Yeah, that's a
around this
growth around the
stem.
bottom of the base.
Yep.
And then also it's growing on the branches. It's kind of like a big fungal, spongy growth. It's really kind of bizarre. And this fungus-like organism can actually, it's a lot of single cells, but it moves together in a plasmodium. So it can actually, yeah, it's cool. And so these are other forms of that. It's called a slime mold. And this is the one, the bright yellow one is one we often see on our mulch after rainy
okay.
weather. It's
Right.
called the dog vomit fungus. So, but hopefully people aren't
Okay.
eating lunch. But yeah, just bright yellow, doesn't hurt a plant. The other one was on a gout weed, I think is what that is. But just the
Interesting.
fungus
Just again,
growing on
just
this, it uses
get
it
rid
for a
of it?
substrate. It'll dry up and go away, and all those
Okay.
spores will go away. But next time it's rainy, you might see
You might
it again.
see it again. So,
Yeah.
So quickly with these, this is a problem with a broccoli. or
Okay,
a
so
cabbage
this
or
is a
something?
problem only in brassicas or crucifers, the
Right.
broccolis, cabbage,
Been having
cauliflower.
issues last
Yeah,
few
it's a
years.
new pest that showed up in like year 2000, I believe. It's called Swede midge. And it's really a problem because the little fly lays an egg right in the growing point of the plant and then feeds on that growing point.
So quickly, what do we do?
Well, it's a
Cut them
tough one.
out.
You, for home gardeners, you want to rotate your plants, move them
Move
as
to
far
another
away,
place.
and use row covers to exclude that pest early on in the season.
Okay, great, Ann. Thank you. And Leonard, how's the fall tour to Montreal Botanical Garden
It's
going?
almost full. We've
Okay.
only got a handful of seats, so if somebody wants to grab that, get in touch with me. The information's on my website, Perry's Perennial Pages, and hopefully you can join us September 16th.
Okay, fun. And Ann, before we go, if home gardeners in the region do have some other issues, how do they get in touch with you?
Master Gardener Helpline is a great place to go. And we don't have the 1-800 number anymore. We're just using this number because it works all over Vermont.
Okay. 656
5421.
5421.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Leonard and Ann, out
you.
from UVM Extension. And we'll see you next month. Okay. And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard.